Here we are. We're finally live on registrations today. So hoping to, potentially get some questions in here and just kind of showcase creating a registration in real time. Go ahead and share my director's page here. And just want to jump over real quick to the director's guide. Remember, we have guide for CPI specifically in here. And then if we scroll down, we can kind of see specifically regional registrations, as this is, what we're expecting to be created in the early parts of the season prior to state events. We did launch registration today for Open number 1 in Rock Hill. So I could jump over and look at that as well. Might spend some time looking at, see what that looks like. Rock Hill Open is now live. As you can see, all the events here are available. All right, let's jump into registration for regionals. We want to go ahead and create a new registration today. So I want to kind of showcase what that looks like and see if any questions pop up. So we'll do a test regional registration for the name. Event type regional. We're going to go and leave it active for now. We'll say that this regional starts October 11th for a Saturday. And we'll say that it also ends on October 11th, same day. So I'm going to start that event on Saturday. I'm going to conclude that event on a Saturday. Next choices here on who gets to register and when. For me, I'm going to say all players get to start registering today. This would be gold members, platinum members, all players registering today, September 27th. When does it close? For me, I'm going to go ahead and close registration on the date of my regional. I could close it the night before. However, I feel comfortable leaving it open till day of. And then we will look for locations. I have a test location that I've done here. Go and put the test location. And then for me, details, I've seen some directors kind of put a Facebook event here in the details. Some directors like to put all of the details in there. Let me jump over. I think I have some details saved over here. All right, so what you can do is I like to save these on a Google Doc and each month just go ahead and edit them. So for me, I'm going to go ahead and start with, ACL regional events, welcome players of all skill levels. No, this isn't very big here. I'm going to make this a little larger. And then we'll say, anyone can play, anyone can win. I like to point players where they can register right away. And, going straight to the player app is the best thing. So app.iplayacl.com. Any player that goes into that will go directly to the player app. They can either create an account or log into their account there. For me, my personal events, I like to say, anyone with any questions, please reach out to my club email. I like to go bold with a couple things like when, okay? Saturday, October 11th. Where? At the soccer center we use here for us. What? Well, let's do a singles tournament and a blind draw tournament. This month, October, I'm going to split mine. I'm going to run doubles at a later date in the month. I'm going to start with singles and blind draw on October 11th. So I will give them some details like when does it open? Doors open at 9 a.m. Run singles rounders for everybody, all skills. If you want, you can split them up. And then I'll run blind draw. I like to mention anything about door fees, venue fees, and then payout structure. Okay, so that's just an example. Let's see. So creating my registrations per event at regionals, you can go tier 1, tier 1 doubles, tier 2 doubles, tier 3 singles, tier 3, tier 4, tier 4. Okay, so we'll go through with 4 tiers. We'll go down to blind draw and say we're just going to run 3 blind draws. Okay. And then we'll look at if you wanted to run rounders for everybody and what that might look like, because that's an option as well. So starting with if we were going to run a tier 1 singles, as you can see, the max CPI for tier 1 is always going to be 12. Tier 1 is designed for either everybody or specifically the top group of people need to be able to apply for tier 1. So tier 1 max, you're going to see that's 12 and that's stuck at 12. You can't lower the max on tier 1 to say certain players cannot play. You can always mess with the minimums. Okay. So if I'm going to run a tier 1 singles, I'm going to run it 0 to 12, being anybody who wants to play tier 1, they're welcome to play up into tier 1. And so tier 1 is going to be open to everybody. Let's go ahead and say we have a max of like 48 players. Oops, and the cost here, I'll do $30 per player. And at my regionals, I have a $5 door fee built in. And so I put that up here. $5 venue fees already added to the registration per event. And so putting this at 30, it's going to be $25 going towards payout prize pool, $5 being door fee. And I'll click pro players allowed. So I want to make sure anyone can play that. All right, same thing with tier 1 doubles. If you're going to run that, usually you want to double the price of singles. If I put it at 30 for singles, you go 60 for doubles. Same thing here. You're going to run that 0 to 12, meaning anybody can play tier 1 if they want. Okay. Go ahead and say 32 teams will be my max and pro players. Now this is where it starts to change when we go to tier 2. This is formerly advanced. So if you wanted to run an advanced singles, that's going to keep some of the highest players out of it. What we're going to do is have a default here. You're going to default at 7.75 CPI, which is right in the middle of our national tier 2 standard. Our national tier 2 goes all the way up to 8.25. However, at regional events, I recognize that number is very high. It's way too high for my regionals. So if I was going to run a tier 2 formally advanced, I'd actually probably run mine at about a 7.50. And again, I'm going to leave the minimums at 0. That way, anybody that wants to play up into tier 2 can, and anyone higher than a 7.5 would actually have to play tier 1. So I would be saying, 7.50 is the max. Again, let's say 32 players, pro players allowed, because there may be some pros in my area that have a lower CPI. That's okay. If they have a CPI in the range of tier 2, that's where they can play if they want. And then tier 2 doubles, we would do the same thing if you wanted to lower that. Now, for me personally, I'm not going to run tier 2 doubles. I'm going to go ahead and skip that. I'm not going to combine them. I'll show you what that looks like as well. Tier 3 singles, what you'll see is that's going to default you right in the middle of the national range as well. National range of tier 3 actually goes all the way up to 7.25. In my smaller area, I'm going to go down to 6.5. So now what I've done is I have created tier 2 singles with a max of 7.5, tier 3 singles with a max of 6.5. So anyone with a 0 to 6.5 can play tier 3. Anyone higher than a 6.5 would have to choose whether they're eligible for tier 2 or tier 1 singles. So if you have any questions along the way here, please shoot them in the chat. I think that the best option for regionals is running a 0 minimum. That way you're allowing players to play up. So if a player comes in, the other example is if a player does not have a CPI yet, they're going to be defaulted at a 0. And we may know that that player has a higher PPR from another tournament. And so we don't want to say that that player with a 0 would be forced to play a lower tier. I want to open up a 0 for those players to play all the way up here into tier 1 singles. Okay. Let's set this price, for example, so we can move through here. Clicks here, tier 3 doubles. Okay, so tier 3 doubles, again, if I wanted to double the price of singles, I would say singles was 30, tier 3 doubles be sitting at 60. Now, lower tiers, you can have lower prices. I do that at my regionals. I might have tier 1 singles at 30 and tier 3 singles at 25 or 20. And in this case, I would just double that. lower tier 3 to 40. Again, I want to let anyone with a 0 CPI up to 6.5 play in mine. Okay. Tier 4 singles, same thing. You're going to find the tier 4 singles default 5.75. This is what formerly was intermediate. And so if you think that your intermediate players in your area may be better at 5.5, maybe they go all the way up to 6.25. That would be for you to decide there. And then what we would do, scroll down to the blind draws here. Blind draws, I like to have my tier 1 blind draw cost a little bit more than my other blind draws. So sitting at $30 a player, maybe $25 a player. Okay. And this is where you may want to have minimums now. So this way in your tier 1, your highest level blind draw, you don't have your lowest level players playing in that. So for me, I might just run tier 1 blind draw. Say anyone who's a 6.5 and higher would have to play tier 1. Okay. 32 player max. And then I'm going to jump all the way down to tier 3. I'm going to skip tier 2 on my blind draw. This is where I would say anyone from a 5.5 to 6.5 would have to play tier 3 blind draw. Okay, that one a little bit less expensive. And then tier 4 blind draw, since I did 5.5 on the other one, I'm going to go 0. I'll win 5.5. So that way anyone lower than 5.5 would have to play in my tier 4 blind draw. Okay. Now, a lot of regional directors, they like to run a doubles, bring your own partner where they run rounders, and then they split into 4 or 3 tiers, or sometimes 2 tiers off of rounders. If you want to do that, that's totally acceptable. It's ideal that you're running at least 4 games of rounders for that, just to ensure that your split becomes a little more accurate. Now, if you're going to do that, in the drop down up here, go ahead and select like I did. All the way down here, we have BYOP1. This is just a generic bring your own partner event. And this will allow you to have anyone sign up for it, run it as rounders as a generic event, and then split off into brackets. So if you do set that up down here, be at the bottom, and that says bring your own partner 1. What I would do is change the title, since these titles are all have edits available. I would say, doubles, rounders, and then you might say all players. Okay, or you might say all skills, like that, or you might say doubles, rounders, 5 games. Okay, and this is what the player is going to see. And now for this double, since everyone's playing the same, I'm going to go at 60. I'm going to let anyone play in that because I want to split off into tiers afterwards. So it's a 0 to 12 CPI. I'm going to say I have a max of 64 teams and allow pro players. So I'm going to create that regional real quick here. You can see that I have my test regional registration is right here. And I have all of my pre-created events right here. Okay, now I'm going to jump over to my player app real quick. And then we'll look at regional event registrations. But prior to that, I just want to show you there was an update, or the updates are populating right now on CPI. My CPI went down. From the most recent update, I was at 6.1. I went down to 5.9. I actually dropped off a season 3 years ago, which was one of my best seasons ever. I've been on the decline for 3 years, whereas a lot of players have been going up for 3 years. So you may see players' CPI go up. Mine, in fact, went down. Dropped off one of my best seasons, and now that that has dropped off officially, I've gone down in CPI. If players are confused about CPI, they're wondering why they might have a 0 CPI, they have the info button right here, which takes them right to the player guide. Okay, and then in here it says, what do I do if I do not have a CPI? Players can see what they do if they do not have a CPI. Again, that's right from their player app. All right, so if I go to event registrations, we go to regional registrations since we just created that one. We'll look up the test registration I just created. And now on the player side, see, I don't have any money. Okay. I can see my CPI right here, and I can see all the events created. Now, the nice thing about that is it shows you the range right here. Now, the very bottom one, doubles rounders, 5 games, is right there. You can see the text that I edited right there. Okay, and it's going to ask me for my teammate. Teammate Sean Bagger. Now I type the teammate in, you can see a list pop up, and then my teammate's CPI also pops up right there now. So you can see that I have a CPI of 5.9. The teammate I just registered for its CPI of 5.1. So you can see your teammate's CPI right there. I'm going to jump over here to kind of show you how that ranges are looking for regionals. Just went through this last week, so I want to talk about it again. You know, the national ranges are set. And what we want to do at the regional level is give directors flexibility. Okay. So anyone in these blue groups of tier 3, tier 4, tier 5, you essentially can make these blue groups play up at your regional, whereas in open, they would be playing in this tier. So what I mean by that is, for example, tier 3 at my regional, this goes all the way down to 6.25. I could essentially mean any player 6.25 and higher would be playing up into tier 2 at my regional. I have some flexibility there. So I have the ability to move these players up just by clicking on those ranges. All right, and then at my personal regionals, which are going to be a lot smaller, I'm going to run 3 divisions. And so you can see here, I'll have the flexibility to move anyone in this blue group up into tier 1 if I want at my regional, right here by selecting my range all the way down for tier 3 to 6.25. Meaning if you were higher than 6.25, you'd be forced to then play up in my regional right here. I'll jump back over here real quick. Actually, I'm going to jump down to here. See if I can start taking some questions. All right. First question, Michelle, is there a video on splitting after all players are playing rounders? There is a video. I will look for that one and I'll tag you in it, Michelle. Yes, there's a video. It's the same way you split after swap or round robin or rounders. It's all the same. There's that green button that says create new bracket. Click on that button, and from there you can split based on win loss right into bracket from rounders. Kim, to be clear, the CPI is only the most current years. Yes, that is currently updating right now. So that third year is being dropped off. So it's your 2 previous seasons plus current season. Right now, our current season hasn't started populating any data till October 1st. So it will be the most current previous 2 seasons after we get through these 50,000 players. Updating takes about 8 hours or so. It's been going through part of today. All right. Also using the selection I use for rounders, is that based on win-loss record? That's how it should be for regionals, Kim. Now, that all those decisions are made at the event level. They're not made in registration. So by me creating a registration that says rounders, it's just a title. People are signing up for it. The title says rounders. That clues them into, oh yeah, that's the one I want to sign up for, and they register. Any type of splitting or changing of styles that you make, that's going to happen at the event level. So that's going to be separate from registration. Just creating that registration and titling it rounders is just a way to get those players to know where to go, where to register. When I'm running the event itself, that's when I'll decide at that time how I want to split based on win-loss record into how many tiers. Maybe I don't have very many players show up. I'm going to go to 2 tiers. Maybe I have 100 teams show up. I want to go to 4 tiers. Those decisions are all made at the event level. The registration itself is just to get the players in, registered, and paid. Great question. Yep, no problem, Michelle. Thank you. Anyone else have questions? One thing I kind of skimmed over that I want to just kind of point out when we're running singles events at regionals, I think it's a really good idea keep the minimum at 0 for all of the singles tiers. This is going to allow players at the lowest levels to play up if they want. And I think that's important at regionals that we're allowing players to play up. It may be a player that has a 6.1 CPI and they want to play tier 1 because they want to play the best competition. I think we should let them do that. And that way, at tier 1, I want to make sure my minimum is all the way down low enough, like 0, to allow players to play up. Um, there's scenarios where you may not want people to play up, and you can set those minimums as you want. But I think for players, it's best, hey, if my CPI is a 5.7 and I want to play up into tier 1 because I feel like I'm actually better than my CPI, I want to allow players to do that. And so when I'm creating that, I want to have, let's say tier 3 singles like you see right here, 0 to 6.5. I want to let players that have like a 3 CPI play up into tier 3. I don't want to force them at my regionals to be down in a lower tier. I want to let them play up. I want to let them play up all the way up to tier 1 if they want. So, now I recognize that some directors may have very limited space and they may say, hey, tier 1 only has room for 12 players. So these 12 players, they've got to be the 12 players at the top. And that's totally fine. You can set that tier 1 how you want. You can set that tier 2 with a minimum to say, hey, I've only got room for 12 players in this division. I'm only using, 3 boards here for them. So they have to have a minimum. That's totally okay. You don't have to let players play up, but just recognize if you do put a minimum, you may stop some players from playing up into that division. Any other questions? I know this one's quick. Also we put in the directors group today this directors research tool here. This is going to be continually updated through the early part of the season until we get a lot of this data into the admin portal, which is the next step for us. But what you can see here is we have all the states listed here and the players in every state. What's actually really cool about this one, I'm going to go up here to look at Florida real quick. Is this column here, column G? You can see there's ones and zeros. You might say, what does that mean? Well, a 1 signifies that the player has earned a CPI and that they can see the CPI in their player app. A 0 would mean that the player's CPI is building in the background. Us directors can see what that CPI looks like, but the player is still going to show a 0. So that's kind of the clue there. And that's why this is a great tool. If you have a player come in as a 0 CPI and they're not sure where to play, you're not sure where they should play, you can actually jump over to this sheet and you can see that this player, Cade Walden, although he has a 0 CPI in his app, I can see that he actually has a 6.9 in the background that's building towards what his CPI is going to be. So I might say to this player, hey, Cade, 6.9 CPI, I'm going to think you should probably play in this tier right here. Also, there's a tab on the bottom, CPIs by range. This one is not updated at the same time as the last one, so just kind of stay clued into these here. And I broke this down by every state. So we can go up to Florida here again. We can see that Florida, they have 5,000 players that are showing a 0 CPI on their side, on the player app side. And then we went through all of the national tiers. You can see that they have 370 players, 6.25, 7.25. And then I just did a different range here on this side, 6 to 7. You can see there's 400 players. So dig around in that data, see if it helps you out at all. And I'll keep updating it and making it better and better until we get all that into the admin portal. All right, Kim says, I believe I'm going to have a bigger challenge on the other side of things, players that are better than their CPI, challenging directors on where they should play. Yeah, that's going to be a way to start the season, players that are better or feel like they're better than what their CPI says, and they may want to play up, and I think depending on how many boards, how much space you have, letting them play up is the right thing to do. It's going to allow them to play against better competition, which helps raise their CPI quicker if they're winning those games. Now, if you do not have the room and you got to hold tight on that, that's totally fine. they're going to be winning at that other level quickly, and then you'll see their CPI you know, head up pretty quickly. All right. Billy says, I know we can have blind draws at regionals, but it's required. It's not required. We do want you to offer them if you have time. It does count for doubles points, and you know they can be a hot ticket for players. So if you have time or if you have a date where you can run blind draws, you should. Regional blind draws are a great way for players to get together, play with people they're not used to playing with, and then also earn points at the doubles level. So blind draw points equal doubles points for the players for your state. So if you can run it, do it. It's not required. We do want you to at least try to offer it if you can. All right. Anything else here before I jump off? Oh, okay. That's all right. Let's see. Oh, okay. Kim's saying this opposite. They're going to want to stay in the lower. I see. I got you. Yeah, that totally too. I think, you know, this actually a good tool for directors to have the CPI now, because instead of that player arguing and saying, I'm actually, you know, I'm actually intermediate, and, you know, they've been beating intermediate players all year. We have to have that tough conversation. Like, hey, I want you to move up. They don't want to move up. Now, CPI is taking that out of our hands. Now, I understand what you're saying is like, you know, they may want to argue it, but that is just data, you know. And if they do play up where the CPI says they should be playing and they lose, well, then we're going to quickly see their CPI drop until they get to a point where they're playing in the division that they belong. So, yeah, I recognize that people are going to want to argue it, but I think it's actually a better tool for directors and a better spot for players to be in than just some arbitrary name that we put on their account saying intermediate, you know, with no real power to it. And then on the blind draw on another day, say the night before, can you take cash and pay cash? Yeah, you absolutely can do that. Just be aware that when you do payouts on the regional side, you do have the per player fee, and that's taken when you do payouts. So even if you click cash on payouts, that's totally fine. You can accept cash, you can pay out cash, but just know when you do the payout itself, there is player fee, so you'll want to have some wallet money to cover that. But yes, you can absolutely do cash in and cash out. You just, when you're running regionals and you click payouts, that's how players are going to earn points. That's when you're going to pay the per player fee. So just be aware of that. And you've been practicing tough conversations in your head. Yeah, I know it is tough. And especially, you know, sometimes you may recognize like, hey, you know, this player. Well, the thing I like to look at in these tough conversations is not always just that player with the tough conversation. It's all the other players that they beat up on all the time that don't want to play them anymore. And as a director, I'd rather have one tough conversation with one player than lose five or six players who are just tired of losing to that one player and they just won't come back. You know, I want to keep those real intermediate players playing intermediate. And so that's how I use, that's a tool I use to justify. Is just rather have one tough conversation with that one player than have five players coming up to me to complain about playing that one player. Yep, per player fees. Yep, just something to keep in mind. If you have money in your wallet to cover it, no problem. Then run cash and do that. You know, we want to get players used to the wallet, and as we transition into the new app, I know that there's some features with the wallet that seem to be a lot smoother. It's a lot less clicks. So I'm excited for that as well. But you know, currently on the wallet, once players are used to it, it's a very smooth deposit and a very smooth withdrawal. It's just getting started with it. Yep. Not losing those newer players. Those are the ones we want. Those are the ones we need. Keep that game growing. All right. I think we're set. Feel free to drop any questions either in the comments here in the directors group, or just go ahead and shoot me an email with any questions you have. I'm going to put my email in here real quick. And then I'm also getting a schedule built for directors to have one-on-one sessions with me. And I'll have a whole host of times every single week that you can go in and select 15 minutes or 30 minutes with me on a call. and we can discuss any questions you might have or walk through some scenarios that you may have. Trevor, I think I invited you to the directors group. Um, Let me double check. I thought I already did that. It's on Facebook. I'll shoot you a Facebook message, Trevor, just to confirm. I think I already did that, but I'll double check. All right, that's my email. It's Michael with a G. Um, so don't forget the G, otherwise it won't work. Michael G, iPlayCornhole.com. You can shoot me questions. Actually, I have one thing outstanding for you, Kim. I know you still have that local event that you paid out cash and wallet. So no worries, that is still on my mind. I still get you squared away on that one. All right. Yeah, LinkedIn work. No problem, Trevor. I will get you in there as soon as I close this down. And yep, no problem, Michelle. Thank you. And keep me updated. Keep me updated how these registrations are going, how your players are. I have mine created for my first regional here, October 11th. We launched registration for Open number 1 in Rock Hill today. That one is growing very quickly. A lot of people getting in that one. So just keep me updated how it's going. Thanks.